insight into what you do and what the Behavioural Insights Team is for those who work here?
The Behavioural Insights Team is an organisation that looks at how to optimise the impact positively of public policy. So we draw on insights from the behavioural sciences, from behavioural economics and experimental psychology, and think about how we can improve public policy delivery using those insights.
Great. What is it about behavioural psychology that you find most fascinating?
Well, I think it's the fact that it's really a deeper understanding of how people respond to different scenarios. And what's often surprising and fascinating is that sometimes seemingly insignificant changes to the way information is presented or various other interaction points with the end user can have hugely substantial consequences, positive consequences to the behavioral outcome.
All right. This is a bit random, it's a bit just off question, but how trustworthy do you think are case studies, but more specifically focus groups? And to follow on that, which do you value more, qualitative data or quantitative data, and why?
So most of my colleagues would be more dismissive of qualitative data than I am. Generally speaking, self-reported or qualitative data, it's not particularly useful for evaluating impact, but it can be quite useful for mining insights. That's very dependent on the skill of the researcher though, so it's not just about hearing what they say, but it's about watching them, observing them, and trying to infer some sort of detail as to what drives them. When it comes to actually evaluating impact, then almost always has to be quantitative, I'd say.
What are the challenges in shifting between the data and the observation and the reality of the situation and the actual policy making?
Well, I think particularly when working in middle and lower income countries, it's not easy to source reliable data that you can use to measure impact. Also, there's the other challenge of working out whether or not an intervention was delivered in the way that you intended it to be delivered, if there's no kind of useful monitoring mechanisms.
What's the proudest thing that you've accomplished at the Behavioural Insights Team so far? What's like a piece of policy or of research or something you're really proud of?
So actually, it's just the establishment of behavioural insights in public policy in the UK and globally. I reckon that at some point in the future, people will look back to this era and think, oh my God, of course we should use that. Of course that's a useful public policy tool. Why didn't we do that before? And I can't overstate how cynical a lot of people were to the approach when we first started. A couple of departments in particular wouldn't even speak to us. They made more work for themselves trying to resist speaking to us and thinking about things from a behavioural perspective than it would have taken just to actually engage. Seeing some conversations that those same very senior and powerful people are having now about how can we actually build this behavioural insights capability for ourselves is a big step change and something that I'm very happy to see.
What's your position on the current Syrian refugee crisis?
It's a very difficult situation. I don't know who has the answers. It's not something, fortunately, we've been asked to think about yet, but I know there's some great minds thinking about it.
That's fine. And the second thing was prison systems. So I was just wondering, what's your take on the American justice system or penitentiary system with respect to a country like Sweden, for instance?
I don't know the detail of either penitentiary systems in Sweden or America, but if I was to talk a very kind of high-level perspective, systems that enforce a sense of criminality on somebody, I think, are liable to see repeat offending. In any prison, I reckon a substantial proportion of the inmates are there by circumstance rather than being the kind of person who will always find themselves in a negative situation and doing bad things. So for all those people who are there by circumstance, the system should be more tailored to help them understand that what's happened is they've committed a bad behavior, but once they've realized that and sort of paid their dues, they can see themselves as a member of society, and so long as they comply with the things that everyone else has to comply with, they should be accepted as that.
So more
Absolutely.
All right. Our last question is of a bit more of a humorous note, and it's which came first, the chicken or the egg? Feel free to give any answer you want.
I mean, I'm going to say eggs because I'm quite hungry and I think I've only got eggs at home, so I'll just make an omelette.
All right. Well, that's great. I think that's.
All right.
Thanks a lot. Thanks.